Hey everybody, welcome inside Studio 34. This is the FanDuel Hurry Up. I'm Gregg Sussman. Today I'm joined by Drew Dinkmeyer of DailyRoto.com. Take a look at some of the top players on the board in fantasy basketball tonight, along with some of the top values that you could play in DFS over on FanDuel. What's up, Drew?
Not much. I'm excited. This is a four-game slate. It's nice and compact after MLK days in the NBA. But I'm excited. This is a good slate to talk about. And so happy to be here.
It is a good slate to talk about. And let's start with the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's our in-play game of the night with the Thunder and the Blazers taking place at OKC. Russell Westbrook's shot has been cold, but from a fantasy perspective, he's gotten the job done.
Yeah, he's been really bumping up the rebound rate, the assist rate of late, and the usage rate has started to tick up in the direction that we've seen from Russell Westbrook in the past. Certainly, once the shooting stroke gets figured out, you'll see a big fantasy explosion come forward. But with Russell Westbrook, when you're talking about the top fantasy players on any slate, especially on a four-game slate, you can't go without talking about Russell Westbrook. He's our top projected scorer at the point guard position. Not a particularly great matchup tonight with Portland, who's a pretty good defensive team, especially against opposing point guards. But, Russ projects for over 55 FanDuel points for us and one of the top plays overall on the entire slate.
Westbrook's obviously always a top play tonight against Portland, which should be a fun matchup against Damian Lillard. A lot to like with Russell Westbrook. Next up, we go to Minnesota, where the Timberwolves are taking on the Suns again. It was a close game a couple of games ago, or the last time these two teams played. And Karl-Anthony Towns, well, he scored 28 points in the first half. Problem was he only scored 2 in the second half. Why will it be different tonight?
Well, the thing about Karl-Anthony Towns, you look back on that game and he was just 8 for 22 from the field. So he's actually played Phoenix twice this year, and he's averaging 29 points, 12 rebounds, and 4 assists in those two games. But he's only shot 40% from the field in those two games. And obviously with Karl-Anthony Towns, you expect him to shoot closer to 50% from the field. The Suns' interior defense is really stretched tonight with DeAndre Ayton and Rashawn Holmes likely out, so you'll see a lot of Dragon Bender at center, and that's just a huge mismatch in favor of Karl-Anthony Towns. So he is one of our top projected overall plays on the slate, projecting just behind Russell Westbrook, right around 55 FanDuel points as well. Certainly worth a look in your lineups.
No unleashing the dragon tonight. Maybe a little bit later, at least not against Karl-Anthony Towns. Tough matchup for Bender, as Towns is going to be awesome. We mentioned Russell Westbrook earlier, and now we get to the other superstar on the Thunder. And at some point, Drew, we got to stop calling Paul George the other superstar. He's just having a better year than Russell Westbrook.
He has. He's been a more impactful offensive player. Certainly, he's been competitive with Russell Westbrook in terms of usage rate this year, which is something we haven't seen from the Thunder in a few years since back with Russ and KD. And Paul George has kind of fit right into that old Kevin Durant role from a fantasy perspective as well, racking up steals and blocks, racking up rebounds, and having a huge impact on both real life and fantasy basketball. And so when you look at the small forwards on this slate with Kawhi Leonard ruled out, you've got an opportunity now where Paul George is the top projected player at that position. Another one of the top projected overall plays. He projects for us for just over 47 FanDuel points tonight.
Feel really good about Paul George and what he can do on any given night. Tonight against Portland, we said it with Russ, and we'll say it again with PG-13. Should be a high-scoring outing and a really good spot to use Paul George in DFS. Up next, we go to Toronto, where Kawhi Leonard surprisingly is out tonight. Another day of rest. He was not actually with the team yesterday. They thought he'd be back today. He may be back. He's not playing. It is the first night of a back-to-back. The Raptors play again on Wednesday against the Pacers, which means both Kyle Lowry and Pascal Siakam are going to step up.
Yeah, the thing about with Kawhi out, we have such a big sample of games this year because he's been rested so frequently that we know exactly where the opportunity set is going to go. And in Kawhi's absence this year, most of the production goes to Kyle Lowry, Pascal Siakam, and Serge Ibaka. And you look at the power forward position today, and you're without a lot of the big names on this slate. So Pascal Siakam immediately becomes one of the top overall projected power forwards on the slate. We project him for over 40 FanDuel points tonight, and we project him for mid-30s minutes. And the big thing with Pascal Siakam of late is the rebounding rate has really been on the rise. The absence of Jonas Valanciunas, they've had to play him a little bit more at the center position, staggering him and Serge Ibaka a little bit more. It's really helped the rebounding rate for Pascal Siakam, which over the last 5 games has been above 15%, and that really funnels into his overall fantasy production as he's a guy that can take the rebound and then lead the fast break.
What Drew said makes a lot of sense. Because Kawhi's been out so often this year, we know exactly what happens when he doesn't play. And it's a big night from Siakam, so make sure you get him in there. Up next, we go over to Phoenix, where Devin Booker, as long as he's healthy, he's the man for Phoenix. DeAndre Ayton ruled out, which means even a higher usage rate, if you can believe that, for Booker. Is that why he's in there tonight?
Yeah, this year with DeAndre Ayton off the floor, we've seen a usage rate of 32.7% for Devin Booker. So the ball's going to be in his hands a lot. He's been growing the assist rate of late as he's been kind of settling into that, point guard role that he's kind of taken over, kind of the James Harden role where you're initiating the offense, but you're also getting a lot of shot attempts for yourself. And that game with Minnesota, high total, close competitive game last time when the two teams played in Minnesota in the last game. We expect Devin Booker to have a great night tonight as well.
Booker, always a fantastic offensive play. Tonight, without that DeAndre Ayton, it's even more obvious. Finally, before we hit the break, our last top play of the night is with Dallas, and that's with Luka Doncic. How come you like Doncic, even though Dennis Smith Jr. is once again expected to be in the starting lineup?
Yeah, Doncic has definitely benefited from the absence of Dennis Smith Jr. He takes over a little bit more of a true ball handling role, and with that, you've seen him contend for triple doubles. You've seen all the things that you kind of would have expected from Luka Doncic in year two or year three. He's already doing in year one as a teenager in the NBA. It's incredible. The return of Dennis Smith Jr. certainly limits potentially some of the upside, but the thing you have to remember is while Dennis Smith Jr. has been out, so is JJ Barea, and so a big usage, ball in his hands type backup guard that Doncic was often paired with in kind of reserve lineups when they staggered Dennis Smith Jr. and Doncic is now off the floor as well. So he's still picking up a lot of opportunity from when we saw earlier in the season when Luka and Dennis Smith Jr. were playing together and Luka was playing a little bit more off the ball. Dallas has really revitalized their offense while playing through Luka. We project him for over 43 FanDuel points tonight. And while the price tag has gotten up there, he's one of the top overall projected scorers at the shooting guard position.
Doncic a top play overall tonight, according to dailyroto.com. Even with DSJ back, as you heard from Drew, make sure you get Doncic in there tonight. Those are the top players on the board. Well, 6 of them anyway. When we come back, we'll give you the 6 top values according to Drew Dinkmeyer of dailyroto.com. Stick with us. We'll be back right after this. Back with you here on the FanDuel Hurry Up. Drew Dinkmeyer and Gregg Sussman hanging out. We gave you the top plays on the board for tonight's NBA DFS slate, according to Drew Dinkmeyer. Now, let's get into the top values. How you fit some of these big guys in there, it's by using some of these cheaper value plays. And we start with the Clippers, and we start with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. What makes him a good play tonight when everyone kind of seems pivoting towards Patrick Beverley?
Yeah, the interesting thing about both Gilgeous-Alexander and Beverly is they both saw a huge opportunity in terms of their minutes upside the last few games with the absence of Lou Williams. And Lou Williams is expected back tonight, but wouldn't be surprised if his minutes are managed just a little bit. And the big thing here is the absence of Danilo Gallinari really shifts the Clippers to just trying to get their best players on the floor, and they need scoring, they need ball handling. They can play Gilgeous-Alexander kind of up in position because of his extremely strong wingspan, and so they can play more of these 3-guard lineups. So we expect Gilgeous-Alexander to hold a little bit more of the minutes increase that he's seen of late than Patrick Beverley, and he doesn't have the same price increase that Patrick Beverley has had of late. So we view him as one of the best values on the entire slate at under 4,000 at a point guard position that does have some alternative options that you can strongly consider, but there aren't many plays below 4,000 on this slate that are as solid as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Gilgeous-Alexander, as what I like most about him, and Drew said it, the minute seems sustainable. Patrick Beverley saw that huge uptick, and that price, well, it went up with that uptick. Gilgeous-Alexander's didn't, under $4,000 tonight. A really good price to pay for the young guard in LA. Up next, we go to a former Los Angeles Clipper. We go down to Dallas with DeAndre Jordan. It's not a huge savings, but what makes you like Jordan tonight?
Yeah, the center position is trickier to find, true like salary relief type of value. But DeAndre Jordan at 7,000 does look like a really good value to us. He gets the revenge game, if you believe in the narratives, has averaged 22 and a half rebounds per game in the previous 2 games against the Clippers. The Clippers play a lot of undersized front court minutes with Montrezl Harrell, who is an incredible offensive player and a great grinder, but is undersized to play the true center position. So DeAndre should have a size advantage there. And this is one of the cheaper price tags you've gotten on DeAndre all season long. His price had floated up into the 8,000s a few weeks ago. Now it's back here, right at 7,000. We view him as one of the best values at the center position.
One of the best values on the board at the center position is DeAndre Jordan. Make sure you get him in there tonight. We continue on and go to Minnesota, where the point guard position, I know a lot of fantasy owners have begged for more Tyus Jones, but even with a new head coach and Ryan Saunders, it's been more of the same. Jeff Teague, Derrick Rose.
Yeah, and with Derrick Rose tonight, you've got a big opportunity set potentially available is Jeff Teague is questionable, and they're not sure if he's going to be able to play. And Teague's been battling illness, been battling injuries, and they had been trying to manage Derrick Rose's minutes and keep him around 30 minutes. But last game, without Tyus Jones, with Jeff Teague ill and unable to play, Derrick Rose was extended up to 38 minutes, and they basically, broke the glass in case of emergency. Tonight might be another one of those situations where they're simply down ball handlers. They're having to play Jared Bayless a decent bit, and so Derrick Rose might have the opportunity to get into the mid 30s in minutes, and his price tag had finally just started coming down because his minutes were being managed. We saw earlier in the season when Derrick Rose was able to play those mid 30s minutes, the huge upside, especially on the scoring. Now you've got a really favorable matchup against Phoenix, a close competitive game on the road, and a reasonable price tag for Derrick Rose. He looks like one of the better values at the point guard position.
Huge spot for Derrick Rose. And if those minutes are managed, well, I mentioned Tyus Jones before, he could be someone that's even cheaper that may be a desperation punt play over on FanDuel. As we continue on here on the Hurry Up, we stay with the Minnesota Timberwolves and we head on over to Andrew Wiggins. This is the third Timberwolf that we've mentioned here on today's show, Drew, after the Cat and after D Rose. Why do you like Wiggins and the Timberwolves so much tonight?
Well, on the road, you expect a more competitive game environment. And what we've seen with Minnesota since the absence of Robert Covington is the fact that they've gotten into a little bit more of these track meet shootouts because they're just not as good of a defensive team without Robert Covington, one of the league's best defenders on the perimeter. And so I think this is a game that's going to be close and competitive in Phoenix. Phoenix is a team that does play up tempo. They have struggled defensively this season. And Andrew Wiggins has, the price has kind of hovered around this mid-tier level all season long in the, low sixes, high fives, mid sixes, because he's so dependent on scoring that you don't see a lot of consistency to his performances overall. But this is a matchup where it should be fast paced, it should be a lot of points on the board, and it should be an opportunity for Andrew Wiggins to deliver on his price tag in the low 6,000s.
Last time Daily Veroto mentioned that I should put in Andrew Wiggins, he lit up the board for over 40 fantasy points. I'm hoping for the same tonight. In this game between Phoenix and Minnesota, there's a ton of options, and our final two options tonight on the FanDuel Hurry Up are in this same game. Let me start off at small forward position, where TJ Warren has been a big-time scorer all season long. I don't think anything different will happen tonight.
No, I think he'll have a huge opportunity set alongside Devin Booker with the absence of DeAndre Ayton. Replacing Ayton in his mid-20s usage for a guy like Dragan Bender and, usually in the teens in terms of usage just opens up more opportunities for the other scorers in the starting lineup. And that's primarily Devin Booker and TJ Warren. And Warren's been a bit more efficient in the games with Booker alongside him, kind of carrying that offensive burden, allows a little bit less defensive attention on TJ Warren, and he's kind of delivered. The price tag has not moved up. He's been playing really heavy minutes of late, north of 36 minutes in a bunch of games, averaging 36 minutes over the last 5 games. We've got him projected for 35, so I think there's even a little upside beyond that. And for me, mostly it's getting a lot of shot attempts against a defense that is deteriorating on the perimeter with the absence of Robert Covington. So I think this is a good matchup for the perimeter scoring of Phoenix, both in terms of increased opportunity and the matchup facing a Minnesota team without Robert Covington.
Yeah, I think it's a great spot for TJ Warren. Again, Devin Booker is going to have a high usage rate, but you're going to see Warren's scoring go up without DeAndre Ayton tonight against Minnesota, specifically against Andrew Wiggins, not exactly a stout defender. So I think there's a lot to like with Warren tonight. Finally, staying in Phoenix, we already know most likely there's no DeAndre Ayton or his backup Rashawn Holmes. Last time that meant Dragan Bender got the start, and once again that looks to be the case. Can Bender put up the points again tonight?
He certainly will have the opportunity to. Whether he can stay on the court and stay out of foul trouble guarding Karl-Anthony Towns remains to be seen. But I think one of the great things about FanDuel's setup this year is that low drop score, knowing that you can take some risks on some players that are cheap and can get into foul trouble and, might not hurt you as much. And Dragan Bender went out and put up a double-double in that start last game against Minnesota. It was interesting that Phoenix chose not to play Ryan Anderson in that game, giving all the center minutes both to Dragan Bender and Quincy Acey. I would expect Bender to basically play as much as he can stay out there on the court tonight. He's just 3,800. He just put up a double-double in the same matchup. If he can stay out of foul trouble, he's got a lot of chance to succeed, and the power forward position is a particularly difficult one to fill. So he makes a lot of sense on this slate with FanDuel scoring in the drop score rule.
Price is just under $4,000. As long as Dragan Bender can stay on the court, well, there's obviously a lot to like with no Rashawn Holmes and no DeAndre Ayton. Bender, the obvious play. Hopefully, he can stay on the court. That's going to do it for us here on the FanDuel Hurry Up. Tomorrow, Jim Sonis returns to talk a little NFL DFS as we get you ready for the Super Bowl coming up in just a week and a half. For Drew Dinkmeyer, I'm Gregg Sussman. Thanks so much for watching, and good luck tonight.